This is a supermarket. This is a typical Japanese meat counter. Although various parts of beef are sold, looking at the places of production, a lot of it is produced abroad in countries such as the US and New Zealand. Actually, current Japanese demand for beef is about 60% for imported beef, and the remaining 40% is for Japanese beef. Beef as well as orange imports were liberalized by Japan-US trade negotiations held in 1991, and most of it was coming in from the US. And while Wagyu beef is popular abroad, beef cattle raised in Japan include dairy cattle and F1, which means hybrid, as well as Wagyu. Wagyu is a cattle breed applied only to an improved type of beef cattle raised in Japan that includes 4 breeds: Japanese black, Japanese brown, Japanese polled cattle, and Japanese Shorthorn. Dairy cattle refers to castrated dairy bulls, and F1 is a cross of dairy cattle and Wagyu. Wagyu features more marbled meat than dairy cattle and F1. Therefore, raising them takes more time and requires intensive management techniques. So, let's actually look at a beef cattle farm. Here in Tokachi, Hokkaido, Uno Farm, which runs an integrated beef cattle farming, currently raises 4,000 head of Wagyu, F1, and castrated dairy bulls.
平成入って、抜き牛の自由化とかがありまして、その中で、和牛という形の中で牛の品種を切り替えてきたということがあります。
In order to stand up to imported beef, beef cattle farmers have expanded production of Wagyu, created hybrids that cross Wagyu with dairy cattle, and striven to improve meat quality. And Wagyu, which is very popular both in Japan and overseas, is the beef cattle with numerous improvements that Japan is most proud of. Although there are considered to be many types of Wagyu cattle, depending on the area of production, including Matsusaka beef, Omni beef, Tajima beef, there are actually only 4 in terms of breeds. They are Japanese black, Japanese brown, Japanese polled cattle, and Japanese Shorthorn. Japanese black accounts for 90% of all the Wagyu cattle. It produces the best meats in terms of quality and in particular marbling. Japanese polled cattle is a type of Wagyu raised mainly in Yamaguchi Prefecture. It is a deeper black than Japanese black, and the fineness of the meat is inferior. Japanese Shorthorn is a type of Wagyu raised mainly in the Tohoku region and southern Hokkaido. It is highly suited to grazing and allows efficient meat production. Japanese brown includes Kumamoto and Kochi strains, each raised in the prefecture of the same name, respectively. It is characterized as being able to withstand heat and require less care. In recent years, Wagyu beef has been exported to many countries and become famous worldwide. But it was only after the end of World War II, in the 1940s to the 1960s, that the Wagyu was established as a type of beef cattle. However, Japan has a long history of raising beef cattle before Wagyu was established. But what was raising Japanese beef cattle been like through its history? Let's have a look at it by era. The history of raising beef cattle in Japan dates back to the latter half of the Edo period, 1603 to 1867. Until then, there was almost no culture for consuming beef cattle as a food in Japan. Nevertheless, after the arrival of the American Perry expedition in ships called black ships, around the end of the Edo period, that was about 150 years ago, demand for beef arose in foreigner settlements, and a cattle slaughterhouse was established in Shorthorn in Tokyo and supplied beef. Going to the Meiji era, 1868 to 1912, consumption of beef expanded with the spread of beef pot and sukiyaki to the general public. Breeding of beef cattle began with a crossing of foreign breeds and native cattle in 1887, and many foreign breeds of cattle, such as Angus, were imported. And efforts to improve beef cattle types began in 1912, with unique targets established for each prefecture to suit local circumstances. Facing a period of rapid economic growth after World War II in the 1960s, cattle that farmers had raised as draft animals until then were sold in large quantities due to rapid progress of mechanization on farms. Projects to transform these cattle to beef were implemented across the country vigorously. As a result, the type called Wagyu beef cattle was created. So, what does it mean to improve cattle anyway? The National Livestock Breeding Center is an institution dedicated to improving domestic animals in collaboration with private breeders.
家畜の改良というのは生まれた子どもたちの、肉の生産性を比較してそれを統計的に、評価する遺伝的能力評価というのを行って、オス牛の精液を選抜して世の中に流通させていくと。
Pedigree improvements is a typical way for improvement. The methods for it include individual selection and family selection. Individual selection is a method in which one individual cattle with excellent qualities is selected and improved by passing those qualities to subsequent generations. Family selection is a method in which a family with excellent average values are selected for qualities that are difficult to inherit. With these methods, improvements have continued in each region as testing of various methods is conducted to produce large amounts of meat that will be most delicious and sell for higher prices. As improvement of beef cattle pedigrees progressed, the category Wagyu was created and breed competition exhibitions began to be held. These are nationwide Wagyu exhibitions that are held on a rotating basis every 5 years. Because winners in the exhibitions become the brand of the producing region, producers from around the country compete at breeding beef cattle. As a result, the quality of beef cattle has improved dramatically, with pedigree and breeding improved on many levels. In Japan, consumer safety is getting attention in addition to the protection and development of livestock farmers. For this, Japan is making efforts at traceability.
トレーサビリティというのはトレースとアビリティという言葉の造語になっていまして、日本語で言うと追跡可能性というふうに訳されます。食品なり物の流通の訴求することが可能になって、何か万が一の事態が生じた場合においても追跡をしていくことが可能になると。
How is it done in Japan? Cattle born in Japan, including Wagyu cattle, are tagged with ear tags as soon as they are born. Each is assigned an individual number, and that will be the number that represents that cattle throughout its life. As soon as an ear tag is attached, the number is entered on the Registry Association website to register it. The number remains attached even when the cow is shipped and turns into beef. Via the internet, consumers can check which farm it was raised on, allowing consumers to make purchases with confidence. Traceability was implemented in law in 2003. With respect to this system, beef cattle farmers
BSE でお客様に対して非常に信用を失ったという部分がありましたんで、情報をですね公開することによってお客様の信用をねまた戻してもらおうということで取り組みました。
Beef cattle traceability with the cooperation of the national government and farmers. In Japan, labeling is compulsory for restaurants that professionally serve barbecue, shabu-shabu, and the like, allowing consumers to check meat that is purchased via the internet. Exports were also considered, and searches can be done in English. Japanese beef cattle provide a stable supply of safe and delicious beef with producers who comply with management standards even while exposed to waves of international competition. JICA has been conducting a number of training for many years on topics of beef cattle breeding and safe beef production in order to convey Japan's experience to technicians and government officials in developing countries.